The Wonder Woman film opens with an evocative shot of the Earth as seen from outer space. It presents the planet as one. This global perspective is a sentiment sometimes expressed by astronauts who either venture to the moon or spend time on the International Space Station. This rendering of the planet is not a scientific one though. Note the thickness of the clouds above the surface of the Earth being greatly exaggerated. Here's a side-by-side comparison with the blue marble, which is one of the famous images captured by the NASA Earth Observatory. So in the Wonder Woman film, what we are presented with is a fantastical rendering of the Earth, not a documentary depiction. As the shot progresses, the camera flies through the clouds and we emerge in modern-day Paris. This camera movement through the clouds creates a fade-to-white transition, which in cinema often represents a character waking from a dream. This fade-to-white coincides with a transition from a fantastical rendering of the Earth to a realistic rendering of modern-day Paris. It also coincides with a transition in the voiceover. Before the transition, Diana says, "It is a land of magic and wonder, worth cherishing in every way." And immediately after the transition she continues, "But the closer you get, the more you see the great darkness simmering within." This of course prefaces Diana's character arc in the film, her journey from a childlike worldview where mankind's actions are driven or dictated by deities, towards a more nuanced worldview that accepts the complex interrelationship between the underlying fallibility and agency of individuals with the impact of environmental factors like war. It's worth noting that the climax of the film is also marked by a fade-to-white moment. This happens as Diana manifests her divine potential and rejects the influence of Ares, her divine awakening. Paris, often referred to as the City of Love, makes for a rather poetic choice for where we meet Diana, as she will come to embody a goddess of love character in opposition to Ares, the god of war. Shifting focus to the Eiffel Tower, this iconic landmark helps the audience to place themselves in the real world. We should also note that this is situated on the Champ de Mars, which translates as the Field of Mars. Mars is of course the Roman equivalent of the Greek god of war, Ares. So let's re-examine our flight path. We see that we started from a childlike, fantastical rendering of planet Earth, and we transitioned to a realistic world. And this happens when we arrive at the Field of Mars, the field of battle. This evolving impression of the world mirrors that of Diana's evolving impression over the course of the film. If we think about it, she started in the fantastical setting of Themyscira with an idealized impression of combat and battle, and it is at the field of battle that she truly faces the harsh reality of the war. In Hippolyta's words, "War is nothing to hope for." As the shot progresses, we head towards the Louvre, converging on the Champs-Élysées. The Champs-Élysées translates as the Elysian Fields, or Elysium. In Greek mythology, Elysium is the realm where those, seeing as being righteous and heroic, are granted perfect happiness in the afterlife. Elysium was seen as the ultimate paradise a hero could achieve. So our convergence on the Champs-Élysées takes on a poetic meaning within the context of the film's narrative, where ultimately Steve Trevor's righteous and heroic self-sacrifice is instrumental in bringing the Great War to an end. As the camera approaches the Louvre, the drone footage seamlessly shifts to a CGI rendering. This allowed for full creative control over the shot composition. Removing pedestrians and traffic created a clean slate upon which visual elements were reintroduced or tweaked as needed. Note the dark toning applied to the minor pyramids of the Louvre. A black car was also introduced, driving around the Place du Carrousel. The dark vehicle's movement is choreographed to momentarily create a cross when viewed in conjunction with the similarly dark-toned minor pyramids of the Louvre. The orientation of our flight path allows us to see a couple of interesting architectural details. These specific details would be impossible to see together from the ground. Note how the glistening front face of the main pyramid forms the Greek letter Alpha, and the staircase in the Cour Lefoile forms the Greek letter Omega. This pair of letters is used as a Christian symbol and is often combined with the cross, as was mentioned previously, to symbolize God the Father and Jesus the Divine Child. This is an early hint at Diana's divinity with respect to the Greek god of Olympus, Zeus. Alpha and Omega are also the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet, so commonly symbolize the beginning and the end, And we should also note that we first see Diana here at the beginning of the film in the vicinity of the Alpha symbol, and the final shot of the film has her leaping from the rooftop near the Omega symbol. The pyramids of the Louvre are evocative of the monumental structures built by the ancient Egyptians and Mayans, yet they are constructed with modern materials, in strong contrast to the surrounding buildings. They have a poetic similarity with Diana, superficially appearing young, but in truth being one made of an ancient mold. Juxtaposed between these anachronistic structures, we get our first clear view of Diana. Her deep red, cape-like poncho draws our eye to her. Note how she's walking away from camera. This ties into the line from Batman v Superman of walking away from mankind in some sense. In terms of the architecture, we see Diana in something reminiscent of a trench. Through dynamic camera movements, Diana is kept on the far left of frame despite her purposeful walking. This subtly creates the impression of her not really making progress, that she is stuck in a rut. This creates a visual tension which is held for a few seconds. This tension is broken as the Wayne Enterprises armored truck enters the frame on the right. The camera sweeps around to the back of the vehicle and we see two armed guards retrieve a secure briefcase. As we cut to the interior of the museum, we get a low-angle shot of Diana's stylish boots, but in the background we also get a glimpse of an ancient Egyptian carving. It features Thutmose III, Montu Ra, and Hathor. Thutmose III represents mankind on the quest for imperial domination. Montu Ra is the Egyptian god of war, and Hathor is the goddess of love. So this carving alludes to the core tensions in the Wonder Woman film: Ares, god of war, Diana, goddess of love, and the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. As the camera pans to keep Diana in shot, she approaches a pair of Lamassu, Assyrian protective deities, mythological guardians of the threshold. We then switch to a front-on shot as Diana emerges from the shadows. We then cut to a tracking shot of a museum security guard carrying the Wayne Enterprises briefcase that we saw earlier. In the screenplay, Diana is working as antiquities curator, and here we can see that she surrounds herself with historical artifacts: swords, shields, breastplates, axes, helmets. We also notice a few skulls hinting at the deaths of certain people weighing on her mind. The musical score is somber as she receives the briefcase, but the moment Diana opens it and realizes what it contains, she is taken aback, and this moment is accentuated by brighter sounds from the musical score. We cut to a reveal of the glass plate photograph that Diana was so desperately looking for in Batman v Superman. There is an accompanying handwritten note, presumably from Bruce Wayne, which reads as follows: "I found the original. Maybe one day you'll tell me your story." As Diana fondly looks at the image, the camera switches to her perspective and zooms in, bringing the photographed Diana prominently into the center of frame. This is in conjunction with a cross-dissolve to a tracking shot of young Diana in Themyscira. The photograph serves as the impetus for our journey into Diana's memory, and it is with a similar cross-dissolve at the end of the film that we exit her memory. The transition at the end of the film is composed slightly differently though. There it does not frame Diana centrally. Instead, Diana and Steve are positioned equally at the center of frame. This poetically demonstrates the emotional change in Diana. At the beginning of the film, she is alone, but at the end of the film, having relived her memories, she is emotionally reunited with Steve. There they are, together, in Paris, the city of love, in the Louvre, beyond the Champs-Élysées.